Hello everybody and welcome to tonight's Digital Doorstep interview. Very soon I will be joined by John Paul Monks. I will allow John Paul to introduce himself when he comes on, as I've done with the other candidates. So to start off, here we are again. Happy Monday. Hope you had a nice weekend, and anybody who's been watching will know that I need to fill some space at the start of the Digital Doorstep interviews, just in order to allow John Paul to come into the audience, and hopefully we'll see him say hi, and then I can introduce himself. I can introduce him rather. And so, rather than go through stats and talk about how well the group is doing, we've touched on a lot of issues over the last few interviews. We've talked about environment, housing, infrastructure, crime, the bridge, the local area plan. A query came up today just on the page about HSE dental services having been moved, anti-traverse sentiment, problems of local government itself, and cycling infrastructure, public transport. We've hit it all. But knowing that I was coming on tonight and knowing that I needed to fill some space, I just wanted to mention for anybody who hasn't heard the situation about a young man by the name of Benjamin Tynan. Benjamin is 12 years old, and his mum, Siobhan Tynan, you may have seen on Salvage Information and other local resources. It's kind of difficult. I'm stuttering even as I'm saying it, because it's a tricky thing to talk about, because it's hard not to sound sanctimonious or whatever talking about something like this. I have no children myself, but I care about them. My mum is in childcare, and I know what dealing with a special need looks like, and I understand a little bit about the challenge of it. And I believe that you can measure a country by the way it treats its children. Benjamin's mum is fighting for a post-primary school place for Benjamin in September. And I understand that she's made a lot of people aware, because she has been on she's been on Salvage Information, for example, which has 11,000 users, and has got a massive response to that. She's done a petition. Extra.ie, the news online magazine, picked up the story about it and spoke with Siobhan. Siobhan's not a member of this group, by the way. It's just a story that I thought was it was more valuable to fill a couple of minutes, as I need to do at the start of our interviews. I thought it was more valuable to talk about that, and just to support her and to say that I really hope it gets sorted. And I think it's crap that he doesn't have a place. I really mean that. So I'm going to remind everybody as well, as you probably know as well, we had some technical issues when we were trying to connect with Vanessa the other night, which means the process for inviting John Paul is a little bit different. But I see that he is now online and in the audience, and he's just said hello. Thanks for that, John Paul. Makes my life a lot easier to see you sitting there. So I'm going to try and bring John Paul in. As usual, I could lose audio for 20 seconds or so. And if I do, that's okay, stick with us. And if I have any difficulties, just excuse me pressing buttons for a moment while I try and bring him in. So bear with me. Thanks, everyone. Yay! Hi.
Hey, brilliant.
Yes.
It
Do you know
works.
what?
It works.
It does work, yes. I'll tell you, it took 10 years off my life the other night, panicking to try and get connected with Vanessa. I was terrified it would happen again. John Paul Monks, you're very welcome.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks a million for coming on.
Yeah.
Delighted to have you on, delighted to have gotten connected. And I'm thrilled to see we have, again, a live and growing audience, and we have people saying hi. I'm going to give little waves back and let everybody know. Thanks, everybody, for sticking with me while I filled some time there. John Paul, we'll get straight into it.
Yeah.
I have to do a little rundown to remind everybody the format, because that's what we do at the start of everything.
No problem.
And then we'll kick off with some questions. Okay. So everyone, the usual little bit of scripting, as it were. First, I'll ask John Paul to introduce himself, and then we'll get stuck into some questions. The first question is common to all of the candidates that we have interviewed so far. So the 5 candidates that we did last week, John Paul tonight and Michael tomorrow, they're all being asked the same first question. And after that, we'll get into some questions that are more specific to John Paul and haven't been asked of anybody else.
Okay.
I think I've pretty much covered the running order. So without further ado, I can take a break and hand over to you, John Paul Monks. You're very welcome.
Thanks.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
I will indeed. I will indeed. Yeah, my name is John Paul Monks. I am the Sinn Féin candidate in the local elections in Celbridge. It's a privilege and an honour to be here, speak at yourself, your lovely self. You do, I think, a great job. And it's a yeah. So look, a little bit about me. I'm a 39 years of age. I'm married with two young daughters. I currently work at the minute with St. Michael's House. So I work with adults with intellectual disabilities. About my background also, like last year, I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in social care practice. And then from that, then I've continually worked in the area of mental health and intellectual disabilities. I worked in social work. I worked with young people throughout my life. I worked in community work. I've worked with homeless people, homeless services. I worked in Merchants Quay. I've worked with people in addiction. So like it's a lot of experience. But I'm so very used to working with the marginalised in our society. And even currently now that I do also additional work with a housing charity that houses families who are in crisis. So, for example, the families that have lost their home, they are now living kind of in temporary accommodation. They're not hotels or anything like that, they're actually homes, but they are homes kind of and on the pathway to getting a council home. So that's what I work with. So it's a very rewarding job. It's a challenging job, but again, it kind of brings together why I'm here today, why I'm the candidate for Sinn Féin is that because I have the ability to. I have a passion for community. I have a passion for people. I have a passion for change. I have a passion that no one is left behind, and I have a passion for again the marginalised of their society and to give people a voice that some people just can't kind of hear. That people cannot hear, like the people that I'm working for, the people that need to be heard. So my background, yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, certainly it sounds like that's a huge CV, and it
Yeah,
sounds like you've got a big list of vocations there. It sounds like because it certainly sounds like you're driven into that area.
yeah,
So
and I
we're
also
talking.
have. Yeah, no, I also have I started off. I forgot to mention that I started off working in youth work in Dublin's inner city, working in. So it was it was a very proactive way of working with young people, and that's what got me onto this journey. Was that seeing seeing young people within the areas that like nothing to do. Like even for example, like I know even what's kind of hot topic in Salbridge at the minute is like a skate park or like a playground or all of those kind of things. Like all of those kind of things weren't even given say to other people which I had experience in. And I know even 4 years ago, like Dublin's inner city, the Liberties, they had gotten their first playground in over 30, 50 years, something like that. So it just goes to show you, and I could see the lack of services and what it does, and the lack of investment and the lack of kind of care with our young people, and then how that can translate into other issues and other problems.
Yeah.
I've seen that kind of firsthand, and like so that's why I started my journey. Started off in youth work, working very much with young people with mental health issues, young people with family issues, family breakdowns. So it was very much a point where I would advocate on their behalf, and also kind of provide a link to other services, and also obviously like to it's a kind of like a buddy system as well, where you would act as their go-to person. It's all about
Well,
building relationships, and it's all about, for me again, building relationships. When you're a counsellor, is that you need the community. You have to build your relationships within the chamber, and also, but the very heart of all of this is people. And I and Sinn Féin are one thing we're very cozy with is people.
yeah.
And we're a party that believes in people and that no one literally gets behind.
Well, certainly. I mean, if you're looking to be connected with people, having a run in your career or vocation, I'm not sure what to call it, given that it's obviously
Yeah,
a community all of those organisations, they're all kind of community driven. But if that's what Sinn Féin are looking for, obviously you seem to be a very, very good fit with that mandate.
Thank you.
Of the party, and it certainly sounds like, for anybody who's watching, it certainly sounds like we're speaking tonight with somebody who knows what need looks like.
Yeah.
Which is a great thing to have, a great skill to have, to be able to identify it and work with it. So thanks for that.
Yeah. No problem.
We'll move on to the first common question.
Yeah.
This is the one we've asked of everybody. So there's no right answer. It's not a test.
Yeah.
It's just really to pick up on something that I suppose it's an overarching theme for Celbridge, in that it often appeared that the municipal district councillors were at cross purposes with one another, and that Kildare County Council placed many obstacles in the way of securing infrastructural and other funding for Celbridge. Is this a fair assessment in your view? What approaches will you take to fostering a more cohesive working environment among councillors and with Kildare County Council officials? And what will you do to maximise the share of funding that gets directed to Celbridge?
Okay, so because I'm a new candidate, I think within the chamber, like there's much of kind of groupthink, and sometimes there's a kind of cozy consensus within the kind of councillors, and what I be bringing, and what I think that what it needs is a young, dynamic, and I still think I'm still 39 years of age, so what I be bringing, and what I think what it needs is a dynamic approach, a fresh way of thinking. And I think there's one thing that's about me throughout my journey and experiences, that I'm never short of ideas and never short of enthusiasm. And I think to foster kind of good relationships is key also. So like, you have your own policies, you have your mandate from the people, and that shouldn't get watered down in any way. So how you can reach consensus is obviously building relationships, but it's also being brave, sticking to your belief. And it's about kind of fostering good relationships with other councillors too.
Absolutely. I mean, just going back to just the very first, I know it's a multi-part question, they all are.
Yeah.
The reason for that, by the way, so that I can ask a big long question, then stop and let you take it away, because the audio crossover can sometimes confuse things. But just to check with you, is it a fair assessment that there has been?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't, because like, from talking to my Sinn Féin colleagues, they don't think so. I think like the people in with the people in the chamber are there for public service. I mean, I'd never throw anyone onto the bus. I think everyone in that chamber is for public service. I just think there's a lot of I think it's quite conservative from what I know, and I think it needs a good shake up, to be honest, from what I know, and I think the consensus, I think everyone's there for the one reason, but I think there's a lot of jostling and stuff like that, a lot of personalities, so it does. And I mean, look, let's be honest, I mean, a good idea is a good idea. So yeah. I mean, we're all there for the yeah, exactly. A good idea is a good idea, and that's it. So that shouldn't get watered down. That shouldn't be shot down in any way. So it's about bringing people with you, but it's all about building relationships, but it's also bringing the evidence that you need. Like, I'm big about evidence-based approach, and that's kind of what I do in work anyway, is that everything that we do is evidence-based. So if you have an idea or proposal or a motion you want to put it into the chamber, into the council, you have to bring your evidence. So again, it's a good idea, but here's the evidence to back it up. Okay, so let's...
The conversation is based more on fact then than on emotion or the jostling you mentioned earlier on.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. We'll move swiftly on, but just before we get to the next question, for everybody who's watching, anybody who's watching these generally this week knows that every now and again I come in and do the same thing, but it really is important. If you have a question that you have in mind, anything on a local issue at all, even if you've asked it before, and even if you've had a satisfactory response before, or if you've asked it and you weren't quite thrilled with it either, remember that your votes 1, 2 and 3, especially 2 and 3, they're all absolutely vital. So road test these candidates as much as you can, and please repeat your questions and see what the approach is from John Paul. John Paul will be looking for your number 1 vote on May the 24th, and that is this coming Friday. So
and if I may,
it's getting close. Yeah, please do.
And if I may, like, there's one thing I want to do is like, I want to bring the people of Celbridge front and center into the chamber, because I don't think from canvassing and talking to people, they don't feel like they're heard. And I think it's going to be my job to put those people, the people of Selbridge, front and center in the chamber. And what I plan to do when I get elected is to bring people into the chamber, but to bring the chamber to them. And how will I do that is that I would do a video blog after every session that I would do, and I would explain to people exactly what motions were done, what progress on certain issues. If someone said, what is the situation on, say, on funding for our youth service, and then I would be able to put that motion in and then be able to feed it back directly to the people. So that's what I plan on doing. So what I plan on doing is doing a video blog, and again, to make it accessible. So for me, it's about connecting communities, connecting it to the council, and for me, that's really, really important to me. That's done. Yeah.
Fantastic. So again, keep the questions rolling. I'm just watching. There's a lot of people waving. Thanks a million. Hi, Michael. Okay, a recap of the questions. Dara Doyle is asking, as a cyclist, he is a cyclist himself, so he's asking you, what are your views on cyclists using footpaths when there is a cycle track available, and what's your view on cyclists wearing helmets? We have yourself coming in. Sean O'Sullivan. Thanks, Sean. Hi, Stephen. Do you still think the Gardaí are I'm going to read it out because I know you can take it, John Paul. We've spoken. You've got a thick skin. Sean O'Sullivan would like to know, do you think the Gardaí are idiots?
Absolutely not.
He's referring to some post back in February. Can you explain the post, please? So you've been you're being quoted there, or I don't know whether you're being quoted or misquoted. I haven't seen it. I have no idea, but certainly an old opinion there coming back. And Sean, if you're watching,
I don't remember making an opinion. I've the utmost respect for and for Garda Síochána. I want to put that in the record. They're absolutely doing an amazing job, and I mean for an unarmed force, they do an amazing job. So on Garda Síochána, I have my full support, and they are not idiots in any way.
Perfect. Okay.
So I don't know where that came from.
It's not a challenge for me. It's just coming in on the feed here. And Sean, I've never done this, but a little preview of one of the questions later will be on Gardaí. So sit tight and keep your thumb hovering over the like button for when you get the answer. All right. Community services is the subject of the next question. Your material says that you would like to advocate for better services for the elderly, enhanced community schemes, better access to grants for re-employment, and youth and mental health services. And many would agree with you that these causes need strong support. Can you provide more details on which specific existing or future services or schemes that you would target for development in Selbridge, and how you could achieve consensus on the team of councillors to support these initiatives?
Okay, so in relation to like what I think Selbridge needs is like when I'm knocking on the doors, for example, and I'm canvassing, what's coming up an awful lot is the young people around here have nothing to do, and when you talk about, say, antisocial behaviour, some of the residents are actually kind of sympathetic to the young people because they have nothing to do, but yet they feel guilty when they have to push them on because someone might have like a young baby or so, and they're making noise. So what I think Selbridge needs is, we all know that the infrastructure completely lagging behind the development of Selbridge, and even the youth work has not caught up in that in any shape or way. I think the youth cafe is a very good thing, but I also think we need more, and I think we need more youth workers in Selbridge, and as part of my remit, and if I were to be voted on the council, I would be allocated some funding as well in the LPT, and I would love to sit down with KOIS and exploring more youth workers. But I think what we also need in terms of community schemes is like outreach workers for young people, because it's a specialty of mine, because I've worked in that area, and it's like when you're working in youth work, it is if you're relying on the people, usually the people that engage with your service are kind of the people who just want to hang out, but it's the people that are out in the streets. They could be drinking, they could be engaged. It's those people you really want to engage, and I think sitting in, say, like waiting them to come in, they're not going to come in. So what you have to do is to, so what I propose is to allocate funding for outreach workers, or some form of that way. And I would definitely sit down. I spoke to KOS, just had a chat today, in relation to that. But again, when I am a councillor, that's something I want to explore, because I also think Selvage would benefit. I know it's funded by the Department of Justice, but I also think they would benefit from a Gardaí youth diversion scheme, and then that would tie into the Gardaí as well, because you need the JLO junior, and you also need the community guard, because the
JLO
community
is a
guard
junior juvenile
liaison.
liaison officer. Is that right?
Yes. So once that's activated, because it's a very proactive approach, and like the for me the big the schemes that is kind of dear to me is young people, and also elderly people, like right across the board. Where particularly, I think, like, if Kildare has the highest youth population in Ireland. So
Yeah,
it's huge, and as I always say myself, like the young people are half the population, but they're all our future.
that's very true.
Um, so like, we have to look after them, and we have to, and again, like in the area of mental health, and like, for example, my wife, she as part of her placement she's now a psychotherapist, a qualified psychotherapist, but as part of that, she was doing her placement in KYS in Selvage, and she had found there was a huge waiting list for families accessing psychotherapy, and also because also children accessing therapy, because it is expensive too, and some children were accessing, say, PA to house, and also, like, but the families, but you need to do the work with the family too.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
of course.
because the young person can be, you can do a lot of therapy with the young person, but then the young person go back home, and then it's still
The environment is
it,
possibly not quite right. Yeah, yeah,
exactly. So it's a
yeah,
family issue. It's a
yeah,
family issue. So
yeah.
so again, that's what it's all about. I would hope, like, would get the funding for a psychotherapist, or more therapists in relation to that, to provide guidance and counselling to parents.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and I think that's it. And I think once you kind of have a two-tiered approach with young people, in terms of them getting the service, the youth service that they need, and also the parents, if they need help around, look, I have a troublesome teenager, I really don't know what to do, because I'm a firm believer, when you know better, you do better.
Yeah. Okay.
And parents know better. So it's about kind of those kind of schemes that I'd be very,
Okay.
interested in.
Okay. Well, coming back to the comments, I need to issue a correction. The comment
Yes.
about Gardaí earlier on was a question
Uh,
not directed to you, but directed to somebody else in the comments. and
okay.
so and so
Yeah. Yeah.
it was totally not a quote from
Yeah.
yourself. That's what happens when I'm
Okay.
reading these things too fast. My
No
apologies.
problem. No
Um,
problem.
Martina wonders, do you agree with council meetings being filmed for public viewing? Um,
Oh,
uh,
absolutely.
Somebody here
Yeah.
says, well, we'll let you get at them in the comments. I'm just letting you
Yeah.
know they're there, and letting people know that you're aware that they're there as well. That's why I just give it a little shout out. Somebody wants to know, do you volunteer locally? That's a little bit of a litmus test for people.
Mm.
Whoever that questioner was about volunteering locally, if you didn't catch the very start where John Paul was introducing
Yeah.
himself, have a look at his history as well. How could you attract business to Celbridge? And you've talked about outreach workers, and yeah, do you agree about the broadcast? And I'm sure
Yeah. Well,
there are more. Sean,
well,
there's an apology has come in actually from Sean on that. He was
no problem.
in the wrong spot. Um, let me see. Thanks for the clarification, says somebody. Let me just check. How will you help attract business to Celbridge? Well, here's something now. This is an interesting point. There's loads to do for young people in
Mm.
Selvage. I grew up here, says Martina, and my two children are never bored, especially my teenagers. So there you go. There we go. We're back. We're
We
back.
had it. We're back. We're back.
Yeah, just a mini outage. It happens sometimes. So we'll
No
move on.
problem. Well,
Um,
if I may, I can deal with the
please.
question in relation to web streaming. Yeah, like, I know that was a Sinn Féin motion by one of our councillors to
Oh,
stream. Yeah, yeah, no, that was that was a motion put in, and it was, I think, would have cost 15,000. I think the funding would
I
have been
saw
there.
that. Yeah.
However, it was voted down, and it wasn't voted down by Sinn Féin, and I think that's a real pity because I think again it kind of adds to the disconnect people have from the council,
Okay. Okay.
and
Well.
I don't think it was like, I don't think it's anything. I think it benefit everybody to have a look exactly what goes on within the chamber, and to see exactly what how it works, what their, what their councillors are doing, and what local issues are kind of being debated on. So I think that's a very regrettable thing to happen.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Well,
yeah, but I
we
am
won't.
for that.
Okay, we won't
Hence
veer off
why,
too far, and I'll let you get at it in the comments. The
yeah.
reason I'm keeping us on track is because Facebook does eventually cut us off, so I need to try and cram our
Oh, do
questions into
they?
our.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
apparently, it hasn't
Okay.
happened yet, but I get nervous around this time. Um,
Okay.
so we'll move on. You've mentioned that you want to support a heightened presence of Gardaí on our streets and in our neighbourhoods,
Yeah.
and the reopening of the Garda station full time. Um, there'll be a whole lot of hell yeses going on in the audience, I'm sure, because it's one of
Yeah.
those subjects. Um, but just to get specific about it, how many more Gardaí do you think we need in Celbridge? And if you
Okay.
had to choose,
Yeah.
which would you rather? Would you rather they man the station to keep it open, or go out on patrols? Which of the two ideas for using these future resources are you prioritising first, and why?
Okay. I know firstly that within Celbridge there is 11 Gardaí and 2 sergeants at the minute. Now I think that's for the population of over 20,000. I think that's really, really, really small number. Now I know the number can be fluid sometimes because there's different districts that kind of move around with each other. But I know to say for the national average on policing is 1 in every 450. So I did the maths today, and I worked it out. It's around 48. So 40 is roughly, I think. Now again, you might need to talk to Gardaí, but I think we're half under quota for the Gardaí. And if you're to ask, I think it's a shame that the station isn't open full time, and I think it's very frustrating for the residents, because I think a lot of the residents speaking, it's just Gardaí, and they feel very vulnerable, very,
Yeah,
very vulnerable, and they don't feel safe in their homes.
yeah,
And even when they do flag something, and even when they arrange the Gardaí, they mightn't see a patrol for months on end. Some of them, and you have all LDL, you have old people and young people too, and everybody, and they just feel very, very vulnerable. I don't think it's, and I think it's frustrating for the Gardaí, and I think the Gardaí do an amazing job on Garda Síochána. They really, really do. I just think they're hamstrung by the lack of Gardaí within the year. I think they're hamstrung by the station that's open. It's not open full time. It's not a base, and I know. Even talked to some people, that even when it's supposed to be open, it's not open. And I mean, if you have someone that doesn't have transport, they'd have to get a bus
yeah.
to Minute, and then Minute to Leixliffe. I mean, that is just not, outrageous, really.
And on the question
So
of prioritizing, if let's say we were
yeah,
granted, a store comes down and there's 5 new Gardaí in Celbridge tomorrow morning,
mm,
where do you put them
yeah.
if you had to choose?
Well, I'll tell you where you put them. You prioritize. So you prioritize your policing. So I think what we need is active. We need patrols. And I know, I think I see it now. I maybe stand corrected, but I know Councillor Bernard Cole put a post up, either in Salvage Information, I can't remember, but he kind of put up a post going, spoke to the local superintendent, and we can guarantee you more checkpoints, and that was it. Now, I very much welcome checkpoints, absolutely do. However, we also need patrols, and I think that's the thing that the locals want, is checkpoints and patrols. Because when you have patrols, research shows that it acts as a crime deterrent. It deters crime, because when you have patrols coming in neighbourhoods, it makes your area less of a target. So I think that's what we need, and it's about, with me as a councillor, or we as obviously a candidate now, but if we were to be a councillor, I would sit down, I would speak to residents, and I would act again as that conduit to the superintendent. Listen, we have an issue here, say in Hazel Hatch, there's a huge spike in crime there. Can we get more patrols down here, because people are afraid in their homes? Can you just send a car down there every couple of hours? It's just to provide that presence, and that's all you need. And research shows that acts as a deterrent. And also as well, like, we need the reinstatement of, well, not the reinstatement, we need the community guard. because I think there is a, we need the community guard because, like, we need the guards to be out, with in the community, talking to residents, attending residents association meetings, feeding all that back to the station, and when they get the resources, and also engaging with the young people. I mean, when you have a community guard as well, he can go to schools, he can sit on the wall and chat to the young people, and it's about kind of providing that link and the friendly face, but also again, it's about because the Gardaí, it's in by definition on Garda Síochána is the guardians of the peace, so they're there to keep the peace, and by doing so is by getting out into the community. And again, I know they're hamstrung with the numbers, but if you've got that community guard, I know it's on the way. From speaking to my colleagues, I know it's on the way, but I think that is a step in the right direction. But what we need is, we definitely need, in the way the situation that it is and now, in lieu of the more Gardaí, please God, I mean, this is a kind of a government thing, but in lieu of that, we need more patrols. And we need foot patrols, visible patrols on the streets. That's what we need. That's what we need in our communities, because again, people don't feel safe.
Okay. Keep the questions coming, everybody. I can see that there's a few bits and bobs coming in. We have a special guest. Bernard Caldwell himself is in the comments. How are you, Bernard? Bernard says, hi, JP. You mentioned getting funding from LPT. Are you in favour of the local property tax?
Well, as Sinn Féin, well, I know the local property tax was initially a bailout tax, and I'm not really much of a go because there are discretionary funds within the KWETB, so it's not going to primarily come from. Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep everyone in suspense, and you can hit that in the comments as usual afterwards. Thanks, Bernard.
But in relation to, just go back to that, because there's no this KWETB funds, because I've sought kind of counsel on that in relation to that. So there are other funding streams I can go to too. Thanks, Bernard.
Okay. Yeah, nice one, Bernard. Okay. I think actually Bernard's not the only politico in the audience. I think Stephen is in there somewhere as well.
Okay.
So we'll move on to question 3. Keep the questions coming, guys. This is great. Guys and gals. Somebody said to me, don't say guys, say guys and gals. I'm sorry, it's a habit of mine. Question 3 is on the housing crisis. You recently mentioned in a comment, shameless plug for Savage Politics, but you recently mentioned in a comment right here on the Savage Politics Facebook group, you said, and I quote, "We need a rent freeze in pressurised areas. Vulnerable families need protection from vulture funds. We need more social affordable homes. I am running my candidacy on freeing up vacant council homes without delay whatsoever so that families get what they deserve."
Yeah.
My question is, are there many vacant council houses in Selbridge? And how would you approach the strategic, sustainable planning for social and affordable homes in the context of a perceived lack of real influence with on-board Planala? I know it's a meaty question, but it hits a few things on the head.
Yeah. Well, the long and short is that I know the council on a monthly basis produce. Again, I'm not a councillor, but I know they produce on a monthly basis, but they don't give us exact addresses or anything like that. So at the minute, I really don't know. But if you're a councillor, you'd have that information readily to hand. But I don't know, that's published on a monthly basis, but they don't really produce the names. And I know sometimes there can be. I was speaking to one of the Sinn Féin colleagues, was that they release it, but sometimes there does be properties could be left out as well. So it's not entirely accurate, is my point. So I know that the information is released on a monthly basis, but again, it can
You'd
differ.
have to see it from the council point of view, I suppose.
For the council point of view. But make no mistake, if I would act on it straight away, because I know initially that was a Sinn Féin motion in the chamber to find out exactly what the situation was in freeing up council homes, so they are returned. Well, obviously refurbished and entered it straight. Given to families who need them.
Understood. Okay. So moving on then to the second part of the question about your approach to strategic, sustainable planning for social and affordable homes. When it feels a little bit like at the local council level, we don't seem to have much influence with On Board Planala. They've got a great big biro and they sign and stamp things, and that's the end of it. How would you approach influencing that?
which the council or the planning. Well, I mean, it has
Making
to be
sure that the
sustained.
planning is strategic and sustainable. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Well, it has to be sustainable. I mean, like you have to look at it based on need and the infrastructure. And I mean, you can't have development. I know for social affordable housing, but I also it has to be sustainable. But it has to be maintained, and it has to be the infrastructure has to be there to support it. Particularly around that because like if you're to look at say the new development that's good in Tickets and Crowden, right? A
yeah,
lot of people aren't kind of happy around that because people are going. That's going to be if there's 380 homes, there could be 2 cars per home. That's 760 cars, and then added
yeah.
on to things. So I think we need the infrastructure to do it, and it's about. I think there's a land agency or something like that in relation to that's going to be done that will kind of alleviate kind of land so it can be given to for social affordable homes. But yeah, and what was the
You,
question again? If you
you're in
repeat the
favor.
question, yeah,
Just of course, yeah. No, I know that
yeah,
they're long-winded. How would you approach the strategic sustainable planning in the context of a perceived lack of real influence with on-board Planola? So I suppose
yeah,
what
yeah,
that's just reflecting is that it seems no matter how wrong a decision might appear to be, and obviously some decisions people think that they're bang on and perfect straight away, but other people
yeah,
think, gosh, that's an awful place to just put 300 houses or whatever it is.
yeah.
Any ideas around how to influence the process beyond what's already happening?
How to influence it, but I mean, it's you have to reach consensus basically, and I mean, it's all about like if there's issues around planning and there's issues around infrastructure, I mean, you'd have to put that as a case against it because
Yeah.
again, it has to be sustainable. It really, really does.
Okay.
And also when it gets like in relation to red freezes and stuff like that. Uh, is that was that another question? That you
No, but I
no,
suppose it's part of social and affordable housing
yeah,
strategy in general. So yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So okay. So you'd be working very much with the council and within its remit to do what you can along those lines.
yeah,
Um, I'm just going to do a quick scroll through. Oh, what have I done? Oh, there we are. Sorry, everybody. Ashling has come in. Ashling, those questions are great. There's a four-part question from Ashling
okay,
Neely. Ashling seems to be road testing everyone and keeping an eye out for the answers. Um, Oshin has a question on the origins of that live streaming motion. And I'm just scrolling down through. Let me see. From our guards patrol in the neighbourhoods. Okay, Compass Counselling and Psychotherapy is agreeing that you've clarified your stance on the guards. And again, apologies for that. It was just a confusion on my part. Here's another new one. I'm an
yeah,
animal welfare sports person. So somebody in the comments, which again you can address in the comments after we've wrapped up, looking for you to
yeah,
confirm your position on that. So look, that's a flavour of the questions that have come in, and I guess, or I hope, like the other candidates, you may have seen some of the other videos and you might have seen some of the other questions that are coming through. So it's a good way to get a kind of condensed feel for where the subjects are, I suppose,
yeah.
from everybody across the course of the week. So thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you
And
very
thank
much
you,
for your time.
not at all, and thanks in advance for addressing those questions that are there in the comments. So everybody, I'm going to wrap it up here. Another great interview. No technical problems, thank God.
Brilliant. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
one that's a broadband.
Well,
Don't mention
gosh,
broadband. Yeah,
no, indeed, no, God, yeah. Well, there we go. It'll bet you there'll be a question on it now any second.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I'd love to have the questions through. Great to have the viewers in, and thanks for the interaction. And John Paul Monks. Here's a
yes,
question for you: Is it John
yeah.
Paul or JP? Because I've been struggling with that.
Well, it's John Paul. Yeah, see, like obviously
You
on
signed it both
my
ways.
election material. Yeah, but it's still a lot of my friends call me JP.
Well, there you go. Well, then I'm
And
going to call you
and
JP in that case.
and another thing as well. Like I can never lie about my age.
Well, that's all
Because
right.
John Paul. It's John Paul because that's
Oh
when the
yes,
Pope
of
came here
course.
in
Oh right.
'79.
Okay.
But I usually I like to think my parents were big Beatles fans, which I am. Like John Paul, George, Ringo. It sounds way
Creative.
cooler. Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds way
Stick with
cooler.
that one. Stick with that one.
I will. I will. I will.
All right, everybody. I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks for joining us,
Thanks a
and
million.
thanks a million, John Paul Monks, and we'll see you again tomorrow night. Take care.
Take care. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye.